Good to have you on the Slice of Real Estate podcast. How are you today?
Doing well, Jared. Thanks for having me.
Let's dive right in. So, I always start off the conversation by saying, you're in your company swag and someone says, what do you do? What do you tell them?
We take the vast troves of public information from cities in America and turn it into something private parties can use to do business.
I like it. And like give me an example if you could give me an example of like maybe one of the biggest like use cases.
Real estate developers are emerging as a big use case for us. They're not the only use case, but gosh, if you think about the number of planning commission meetings that happen in America every single week and how long those things are, they can be the longest one we've seen to date is 23 hours. That's no joke without recess. And so if you're a real estate developer, kind of attending those meetings can be a huge drain. You either have to send somebody there, sit at home, watch the Zooms when they're finally posted. What we do is we are able to take those videos and extract just the pertinent information for real estate developers. And within real estate development, acquisitions teams use us to look at cities that they might be interested in expanding to. And entitlement teams use us to assess the entitlement risk they might face in a specific city by seeing, actions are taking longer to get approved and so on and so forth.
When you look at those super long meetings, what are typically some of the maybe more unique insights that you've kind of pulled from that?
So I ran for city council, which is how I started this business, and I started sitting through those meetings. A lot of it is, I think I've seen a number of companies trying to figure out sentiment in these cities towards certain issues, and they use public comment as a proxy for that. I would say one of my biggest insights is public comment at city council meetings is not reflective of what a community thinks. It just is not, because you have the same one or two people who are showing up who have time to invest into these meetings, and they have a very strong opinion, and they often broadcast that opinion through Nextdoor or Facebook groups, but you can't determine sentiment through public comment. I can't emphasize that enough to anyone who's interested in public meetings.
Yeah, and then it doesn't become public comment. It becomes Steve, Judy, whoever that person's coming every single week, right?
Yep, 100%.
That's annoying. When you first started this up, obviously you mentioned it related to past experiences as part of the driver to start this. But I always tell people, like, when thinking through the moments that led up to saying, I'm going to build this business, what was the final domino that, made you go and say, all right, today's the day, let's do it?
Well, for one thing, I can't help myself. This is my third company, so I'm sort of a serial founder. When I see a problem that I feel like is worth investing time in, I'm just gonna invest my time in doing it. And with this one, it really was the city council run, and I was falling asleep during like a 6-hour meeting about the California housing element, which is a state requirement imposed by the state of California to ensure that cities build at the local level by giving them an allotted number of units that they need to build over the next several years. I mean, that was a moment, that meeting. But then I started sharing some of the meeting insights with my community around here where I live in Orinda, California, and people loved it. And it started off as a small newsletter. Then I created one for a neighboring city, and I thought, wow, actual people get value out of this. Now, what's funny about that is I originally thought I might be building a media company because local papers don't have the staff to cover all these meetings anymore. But a year into the business, real estate developers and other private parties started reaching out to us for this data.
Interesting. And I think you also have more use cases as a result of going this pathway, right? To get all these various parties to want to tap into what information that you have.
Yeah. So it's there's like a broad aperture, and there's different meeting types. So over time you could see this get very interesting. The other thing is we actually have a couple of government customers. And so the city of Saratoga, California, and the city of Palo Alto, California are customers. Their use cases, they want to take these long meetings and share summaries with their residents so they don't have to get their information from Nextdoor or Facebook. So you can imagine government, real estate. You can imagine any private company that has a vested interest in local, which, that's pretty much everybody. 2 trillion of GDP is spent at the local level and, by local governments. So it's significant.
When you kind of look ahead, this is a problem I always like to kind of, it's a good problem to have, right? In terms of what makes roadmap and what doesn't. How do you decide based on feedback you receive what needs to be added and what maybe should be shelved for a later date?
Always a hard problem. I think The nice thing about being a multiple time entrepreneur is I've seen this sort of movie before and like been after various projects at companies. This seems interesting. This seems interesting. I kind of just think about focusing on like two or three things at one time. Right now it's three things, and those are the only three things that matter. And these are three things that we've heard on a recurring basis from our customers, and that's all that matters. So those three things are we'll be releasing agenda monitoring for our customers. And so it turns out, a lot of our customers want to monitor agendas in addition to the meetings to get advanced intelligence on what's happening and whether things like impact fees might be discussed. That's an area where we'll do really well at, and we're going to be releasing our first wave of agenda monitoring products to customers. The second thing that we do is we take the data from the meetings and extract information about projects, about how people vote, and about actions. We can extract data effectively from meetings in a focused way. And then the third thing that we do is search. And so if you want the ability to see what an elected official has said about rent control over the past, 3 years in, X cities meetings, we can do that. And that's because it's an extension of our product. We have to have the videos, which means we get the transcripts. So it's agenda monitoring, data, and search. Those are the three things that Hamlet does. And that's all we're going to do. If it doesn't fall in one of those three categories for the next couple of years, I'm not going to make it.
Let's talk about, obviously, I met your team at Blueprint. They were there to obviously continue to get you in front of that real estate crowd. How important is building that network up for the business?
I mean, this is especially in the real estate developer world, as you know, it is, a very social group of buyers, and, people talk to each other and things like that. I can say, happily, we have a number of customers now, which is great. And they have great things to say about us. Many, I can't disclose their names because we're a data advantage for them, but we work with the firm Presidio Bay Ventures, for example, and the folks there loved their experience with Hamlet and have introduced us to many more potential customers. And so, it's really important to build a network. Now, I made a big upfront investment last year because I was completely new to it. Now it's kind of like, okay, I'll strategically work on getting to know the people I want to know now that I have a better sense of who the buyers are.
What I love about real estate is there's so many smart people, but just some of the nicest people too. Like, they're gonna give you honest feedback. They're gonna like some of the best customers for you to have, right? Because they're gonna give you really good feedback on what you want, what you need in order to continue to improve and build upon what you've already built. When you look out ahead, we're heading into 2025. What excites you about the business as we head into this new year?
I'd say I'll take that in two ways. I mean, we are an AI business, and so I think just being an AI entrepreneur right now, you're building with the foundation under you, shifting every 3 months. I mean, just this past week, if you spend any amount of time following this news, right? I mean, Google released its new Gemini 1.5 deep research product. You have OpenAI with their 12 days of product releases. It's only a matter of time till, Anthropic just shipped 3.5 Sonnet, and they're going to have some exciting stuff. But it's just moving so fast. It's frenetic. And that's both good and bad, but it makes it exhilarating and exciting. So the AI aspect of the business it's really nice to be in it, in an exciting space. With our business, what I love about it is there is like a broad array of applications that we can build for our customers. And the challenge I think about every day is we're not just going to be selling to real estate developers, right? So how do we find the right markets to invest in this coming year? And that's something I spend, I'd say, most of my time thinking about because, do we invest time in retail? Do we invest time, so for example, Whole Foods might be scouting new places to build stores, and they probably look at local intel. Feels big, but there's other areas that feel big. Data centers feel big. Renewable energy feels big. So I've got to pick really, really smartly. That's a challenge, and I love the challenge.
We're in retail and energy, by the way. So if you do go into those spaces, let us know.
Oh yeah, don't worry, I'll be hitting you up.
Really interesting. I want to ask you this question too. This is one of my favorite questions to ask. What's something you can laugh about now that when it first happened with the business made you kind of maybe not cry, but was not a good feeling?
We thought about building voter guides, which would have been, I think, a very poor investment of time. So we were thinking that it could be good virality leading up to the election, et cetera. Then in a matter of like a span of a couple of weeks, Perplexity had invested in voter guides and a bunch of others. And that would have been a huge, huge investment for us. We didn't do it. It was a smart decision, but the fact that we spent like a lot of time thinking about can we have something to do here? I'm just very relieved that we didn't go after voter guides.
I think it's a good move. I think, would you have gotten the attention? Yeah, I mean, they did get attention, but at what cost, right?
Yeah, and the other thing about voter guides is the only 2 days they're viewed is the day before the election and the day after the election. And so I didn't realize that. It felt exciting and like potential virality and this and that, but it would have been a poor investment.
Yeah, interesting. What's one piece of as we start to wrap up here? What's one piece of advice you would give to someone, a new entrepreneur?
I think it's there's no wrong path between venture backed and bootstrapped. It's just two different games. That's it. There's nothing. I think there's this oftentimes this argument that always blows up on Twitter. Well, bootstrap and it's a better way to go. You don't have to worry about venture money, and venture is just a different route. If you're going to be in the venture game, just be ready to you have to grow. And you have to grow into a big market. If you do the bootstrap game, you could probably make a lot of money in a number of other businesses. It broadens the aperture of what you can do. But there's no right or wrong. Like pursue one or the other and just be honest about in the early days what your business is. And I think what happens is, including with me, I've raised venture before for business that maybe didn't, warrant having a huge market to grow into. So when you start up front, just be honest with yourself about what you're building and how big it could be and whether it warrants financing.
I love it. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us here today, sharing some of what you're working on and what the future holds. Hopefully, we can stay in touch so that when new updates come up, you let us know and we put that out there. But thank you so much for spending some time here with us today.
Thank you, Jared.